All right, guys, welcome back for another video. So today I've got another special guest who I'll be interviewing. I've got here Dr. Suresh Khirwadkar. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you, Joff.
We'll just get straight into it. So Dr. Suresh, I found him through social media or watched some of his videos on YouTube. He goes under the handle the Meat Medic. Is that correct? There we
Correct.
go. That's it. Representing.
Yep.
And so he's as you will be able to tell, he's a doctor, and he'll explain all of that in this interview. So let's just get straight to the questions. Um, Dr. Khirwadkar, could you please tell us about yourself and I guess how you've come across this carnivore diet that is being talked about recently?
Absolutely. Of course, Joff. Thank you for having me on the show. It's great to be here, and we've been trying to set it up for a couple of weeks, so it's nice. My kids are out of the house for a little bit, so hopefully it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, basically, I mean, there's a long story and a short story, of course, with everyone.
Hmm.
Pretty much like anyone, especially doctors, on this kind of journey outside of the normal guidelines and things. Really, it's always a personal health story. It's always a personal health story. And once you kind of have your eyes open, and you see the truth, is you just can't unsee it, and then you just got to
Yeah.
share it. For me, I'm not sure how much time we have. We can go the long version, but
Yeah, let's
basically,
go the long version. Yeah,
a
why not?
patient actually, got me into it, and I'll forever
Mhm.
be grateful to that patient. He knows who he is, and he one day kind of came to me and said, "Hey, look, I'm doing this fasting." Because I've got these issues. I said, okay, yeah, great. Intermittent fasting. He said, no, 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 I'm doing prolonged fasting. I said, okay, what's prolonged fasting? Oh, I'm fasting, going to fast for 7 days. And like my medical brain was just like, warning, warning, like what the hell is this? This guy's going to kill himself. Like, this is not a thing. This is insane. And I was just like, no, 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 like, this is crazy. You can't do it. You're going to kill yourself. Like, all this kind of stuff. And he basically, long story short, there he just said, "Well, I'm doing it. So,
Hmm.
and you're my doctor. You can't get rid of me that easily. You're going to monitor me. You're going to see the changes, and like in a nice way. He wasn't, he didn't
Hmm.
force it on me, but in a nice way. He said, "Look, I want you to see what happens. I want to open your eyes." And so, to be fair, I said, "Okay, fine. I'll monitor you begrudgingly." And he actually with amazing benefits. I mean, he lost a lot of weight, of course, as you would expect on a 7 day fast. But the symptoms, his health improved, which was really the main thing that I
Hmm.
saw from that. But still, my medical brain was like, okay, like I see, but I still don't believe. Like my medical
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
teachings, like, no, this is not a thing. Like, it's drugs, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And then, fast forward a few months, I mean, kind of health conditions kind of, took a turn for the worse again, and eventually kind of came back saying, "Hey, look, I'm going to do this thing called carnivore." And I'm like, what the hell's carnivore? Like, and he told me, oh, it's, technically more than 70% of, calories from meat. But I'm eating like pretty much just meat. And I was like, dude, like, well, you're gonna die. Like, your cholesterol, think of your cholesterol,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you can't do this. This is insane. Like, there's no way. Like, my medical brain again, just like going, warning, 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 like, just get this guy out of your room. And he was just like, no, no, like, you're my doctor. Like, you can't get rid of me that easy. And, you're going to see, and super quick. Like, I saw the benefits, like, it just miraculous improvement.
Hmm.
And these symptoms that, like, I couldn't explain to him why he had them, just like tingling and like just weirdness kind of stuff. They just went away. And he felt great. He looked great. He lost loads of weight again, and and so on. And still, my kind of medical brain was like, okay, I see it, but I still don't believe it. Like, I can't marry this in my head. Like, okay, I get it worked for you, but there must be like a reason for you, and like, this can't be a thing.
Yeah.
And then, fast forward another couple of months, and I went to the Low Carb Down Under in Gold Coast last year.
Oh,
And I actually
right.
heard Dr. Anthony Chaffee talk. Probably a lot of your listeners will know who he is.
Yes.
Um, and he did the, plants are trying to kill you talk, which I think is still probably one of their most popular videos on YouTube. And something kind of inside me kind of just like almost clicked and was like, okay, like, now there's a doctor talking about it. Like, this is not just some random. This is not some
Hmm.
random on the internet. This is like a doctor talking about it now. Like, there must be some sort of legitimacy to
Hmm.
this. And he's saying things that actually kind of make sense. Like, I know plants can be toxic. I know things like, kidney beans, like, we have to cook them, otherwise they make you very sick. Like, I know
Hmm.
this kind of stuff. So yeah, something actually kind of makes sense in this. And I thought, you know what, like going back to my own personal health journey, I've done everything. Like I've done fasting, I've done keto, and at that point I'd actually done prolonged fasting as well because I'd seen
Right.
the changes this guy I had seen. And yeah, I saw some benefits, but I still wasn't kind of healthy, I would say.
Yeah.
And I was really at the point where it was like, okay, I actually dedicate my life to getting healthy, do something about it, or just essentially just resign myself to I just get diabetes, I get heart
Mm.
disease, I go on to statins and all these other medications, I'll probably get dementia and heart failure and just have a really shit life basically.
Mm.
But I'll be happy until that point, and then I'll just be miserable like everyone else I see, in their 60s is riddled with disease. And that was kind of like I just kind of resigned myself to that, which is so incredibly sad. And like for a hair's breadth, I could be at that point, like by the grace of God, as they say. Not that I want to bring religion into anything.
Mm.
Um, and I kind of like, you know what, I've done everything else. Like I'll do it. And I went home and I said to my wife, look, I actually I want to do this because I've done everything else. Like nothing's ever worked. Something kind of clicks with me in this. Like I like eating meat. I think I can do
Mm.
this. And she just said, but I don't want to do it if you're against it. So, and she's just like, yeah, it's fine. Like go for it. Like you've done everything else. Like nothing's ever worked for you. You're basically pretty unhealthy. Like that. Like not in a mean way.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you just do it? Do it for a day, do it for a week. Like exactly what I say to patients,
Yeah. Yeah.
and see what happens and stop if you don't feel well.
Mm. Mm.
And then like, 10 months later, here I am.
Wow.
And like straight away, I mean, like within 2 days, I felt so good. So good, like the best I felt in my life. Like, and I think back to when I was like maybe 18, 19, 20. We all feel invincible at that age. I'm not sure how I don't know how old you are, actually. Introduce yourself earlier. But like we all feel invincible, but I genuinely feel better than I actually did back then. And I'm 20 years older now. And yeah, like within 2 days, I was like, my God, like there is something in this. Like you can't feel this good for something that's wrong for you. Like there's just no way. And so then I was like, wow, my mind is blown. And I'd done fasting, I'd done intermittent fasting, I'd done
Yeah.
prolonged
Yeah.
fasting, I'd done low carb, I'd done keto, I'd done all these things. I'd done calorie controlled diets, very low calorie diets, like for, like 3 months, I basically ate like 300 calories a day for 3 months, back in uni to
Mm.
lose the weight initially. And I lost the weight, but I never got healthy. And of course it came back on, as always
Mm.
it
Mm.
does. So I'd like been there and done that with everything, and then just this carnivore. But not only was I losing weight, I actually genuinely felt incredible, like just incredible. Not even healthy, like incredible,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
superhuman.
Yeah.
And like my health problems, like that I didn't even know I had, just disappeared. Like things like my hands, like I had really bad pains in both my thumbs. I'd resigned myself to again, just like I just can't work out anymore because it's just too painful.
Right.
um, just went away in like a few weeks. Just I was like, wow, what? Like that's
Yeah.
insane. Like
What's
that's
happening here?
incredible. Like what is this all about? This
Yeah.
is crazy. I like my knee pain just went away. Like my back pain
Mm.
went away. My eyesight improved. My cognition improved. My sense of smell improved. I've always had a terrible sense of smell for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even pre COVID. I haven't actually had COVID, but
Oh.
and that improved. Like my hearing is a little bit better. Like all of this stuff is just, and my energy is absolutely through the roof. Absolutely
Mm.
through the roof. And it's just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Wow. That's amazing.
I kind of went on a bit there.
No, no, that's perfect. I mean, it's great to kind of showcase these things because it really is, and I like many people can resonate with that. Just that feeling of euphoria, even
Mm,
after what you said about 2 days. For me, it was about a week into it
mm,
that I started feeling like I was Superman.
yeah.
Um, were you active uh, prior to doing all this? Were you,
Like physically, yeah.
yeah, physically active?
Not that much.
Right.
Like I tried to go to the gym,
Yeah.
but like for me to go out to the gym, like I've now got 4 kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
I work full time. I'm
Oh
doing a
yes, that's
podcast, and I'm
yeah.
about to launch another channel. It's like I can't, like I don't have time to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The luxury of like going out to the gym for 2 hours. It's like, oh, I'd love that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But no, it doesn't happen. Like I have a set of weights like literally in the corner of the room,
yeah,
and they hardly ever get used. Like I've got a weights bench underneath my dining table. Like it just never
yeah.
gets used
Mm.
because there's no space to even use it. So I got like I lost weight and I got really healthy. And I actually built quite a bit of muscle now that I don't
Yeah.
not super muscly. I've got a lot to go, but compared to when I was in my 20s and I was going to, and this was like not even lifting weights basically. Um, Compared to when I was in my 20s, I was going to the gym every day, getting up at like 5 a.m.,
Mm.
would walk like half an hour to the gym or bike to the gym,
Mm.
go and work out for an hour, come home. Like I was doing all the protein shakes, all the carb loading, like the
Yeah.
dextrose and like measuring out the maltodextrose. Like, do you use dextrose? Do you use maltodextrose, the whey powder, like the BCAAs, like all this kind of
The
stuff.
bro stuff.
Oh, yeah, all that bro science. And like nothing ever
Yeah.
really worked. Like I never
Yeah.
really built any muscle. And then like 6 months on carnivore, and it's like I'm not even trying and I'm just
Mm.
building muscle.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I'm 20 years older. I mean, God, if I knew then
Yeah, that's
what
right.
I know now,
Gosh,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh man, I'd be absolutely stacked.
Yeah, I say that to myself too. I wish I was born carnivore, or I wish I was.
I know,
I wish that I started off just eating meat and only that for the rest of my life. But anyways,
I
we got
know.
here for a reason.
We did,
So
and
yeah,
we know it now. And I think an important point there. I think it's never too late.
that's
Absolutely
right.
never. I mean, I actually had a 79-year-old man come in to see me not that long ago, and patient, and he had actually been carnivore. He started around the same time as me, actually,
79
October
years
last year.
old.
79. He started carnivore, and
Wow.
he's actually agreed initially to come on my podcast at some point, which will be amazing.
Oh, that'll be good.
But yeah, he was like, yeah, he just went carnivore and he'd heard about it from someone. I was like, I want to try it, and he got off all his meds and he feels incredible, and he's like chasing his wife around the bedroom now, and like he's just like he's having the time of his life at
That is awesome.
79, and he just says he feels incredible. And he actually, I asked him how he got started actually, and he said, yeah, he just walked past someone in similar age to him who just
Mm,
looked really good, and he just stopped him in the street and was like, what do you do? Like, how do you look this
yeah.
good? How have you got this energy? And the guy just said to him, like, yeah, I just eat meat. I kind of just walked off. Like, that's all there is. They just eat meat.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, I'll just eat meat. And
Yeah.
he had that kind of leap of faith, that foresight to just say, why not try it? And he said the same thing within a few days. He just felt great at
Yeah.
79. It's never too late.
Man, that's crazy. And
I know.
like imagine, if a 79-year-old can do it,
Yeah,
anyone can
literally
do it.
anyone.
Anyone can do it,
Literally
really.
anyone. I know anyone.
Yeah. So as a healthcare professional myself, one to another, I totally feel you about, your radars going up, about, you talk about your medical radar going up.
It's just these
I
lot.
had
Yeah.
yeah. It was the same for me when I first found out about um not just carnivore, just the low carb space in general. I mean, like, I can remember, someone telling me, or a colleague of mine telling me, sugar is inflammatory. And I thought, I don't know. Like, even if it is, how the hell are you going to give it up? Like, it's
Yep.
everywhere. It's everywhere. With your, I guess, talk us through what solidified it for you. I mean, of course, someone's anecdote is enough. And I mean, that was enough for me as well, looking at people's anecdotes online.
Mm.
But from a medical perspective and a scientific perspective, what was it that sold you on this idea that eating meat is good for you?
I mean, my own personal anecdote, I
Yeah.
felt incredible.
Yeah.
And that was like, okay, there's something in this,
Yes.
like you can't feel this good from something that's bad for you.
Yeah.
Like genuinely good, genuinely good.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, I eat ice cream and I feel good for like 5 seconds,
Yeah. Yeah.
like genuinely feel good.
Mm.
Mental health improving, physical health improving, these problems that I didn't even know existed going
Right.
away. There's got to be something in this.
Mm.
And and then I just did more research into it and everything, and then I thought, you know what, like, yeah, this kind of makes sense, and like I'll just do it until I have a problem, and then I'll work it out from there.
Yeah.
But there's no way that this could be bad for you if it makes you feel this good.
Right. Right.
Or let me put it another way, there's no way it was possibly worse than what I was doing.
Right,
Because
right.
that's a key point as well, I think, is, people say, oh, carnivore, some people say, oh, it's not healthy, your cholesterol, all the rest of it.
Yes.
You know, we have to always acknowledge, and we have to always ask the question, compared to what?
Right.
Because that's always the thing. A patient said to me the other day, like, oh, because I said to him, like, I occasionally eat the occasional kiwi, like on my
Mm.
primal fusion diet now. And he was, oh, kiwis are really bad, they're full of oxalates. And I said, yeah, okay, like, but compared to what?
Yeah, right.
Like, what's one kiwi going to do to me when I'm eating zero oxalates otherwise?
Mm,
Like,
mm, mm.
we don't need to, really drill down on the minutiae, all the time. We can just say, okay, well, but compared to what?
Yeah, yeah,
Compared to a
that's
life
right.
full of sugar. Like, yes, eating meat is going to be way healthier than a
Yeah,
lifetime of eating sugar.
yeah, yeah. I'm glad you touched on that because I did look up your protocol. What was it called again? Sorry.
Yeah, so it's a new thing. I'm still in the process of making. I'm calling it the
Yeah,
primal fusion diet,
right.
and the idea there is it's a fusion for two reasons. It's a fusion between kind of carnivore and paleo, although it's much
Yeah.
more heavily towards carnivore.
Yes.
But it's also a fusion of the diet and the lifestyle.
Yes.
So
Of
it,
course.
it it takes things from things like the primal diet, which touches on that, to be fair. People like Dr. Ken Berry, his proper human diet.
Mm, mm.
The difference, probably the main difference there between what I'm trying to think about and what he's thinking about, is he says, you can eat these low toxicity fruits and vegetables as much as you like,
Right.
which
Right.
I don't necessarily agree with.
Right.
I think it's a case of in moderation, in small amounts,
Yeah.
occasionally, seasonal fruits. And it's trying to go back much more to what our ancestors actually did, what we evolved
Yes. Yes.
doing.
Yeah.
And we didn't evolve eating just 100% meat.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't. We just
No,
wouldn't
that's
have.
right. Yeah.
If you're starving to death, and the example I use in my kind of intro guide to it, if
Mm.
you're starving to death, you haven't eaten for 3 weeks, and you're out on a hunt, and you go past some strawberries, are you gonna look at those and go, ah, you know what? I'm literally starving to death, and I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna die tomorrow if I don't eat them.
Yeah.
Ah, but you know what? I need to maintain ketosis.
Yeah.
Carbs are
Yeah.
bad. Like, no, you're just going to eat the damn things. You don't know what ketosis is. You're literally, a caveman. Like, you
Yeah.
don't know what ketosis is. You don't know what the Krebs cycle or your Randall cycle or anything, or all these kind of stuff. You're just like,
Yeah.
you know two things: I'm dying or I'm not.
That's right. Yeah.
And so we actually would have eaten these things, but again, you would have had like 10, 20 people maybe out on a hunt all together, and you come across like a strawberry bush, a
Mm.
strawberry plant, a berry, a bush of berries. Like, you're not going to eat like, 20,000 tons of them. You're not going to go to Coles every day and buy strawberries every single day.
Yeah.
You're going to get like two strawberries, that's it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
That's right. Yeah.
you literally live to fight another day, so you're going to eat this stuff. Same thing again, things like honey and so on. And those, so Paul Saladino talks about honey. But what we didn't do is go out eating honey every single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, but pretty sure with bees, if you disrupt the hive, they pretty much don't come back. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
pretty much like a one-time deal, for honey. How often are you going to come across honey? You're not going to come across it every single day,
No, no, definitely not.
every once in a while.
Yeah.
Seasonal fruits,
Mm.
so that's kind of where I'm at, is, the occasional bit of fruit, the occasional things like avocado,
Yeah.
like low toxicity. It's much more about that animal-based diet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still in keeping with the 70% calories from, excuse me, from meat, but I have like an avocado every day now. I actually feel better doing
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
than I did actually on pure meat.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I'm losing weight now again, which is
Mm.
interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
I feel better, like mentally, my cramps have gone away, but then I'm also tying it with the lifestyle changes, and it's
Of
about this
course.
kind of ancestral primal living. What did our ancestors do? What do we see nowadays as
Mm.
reducing people's stress and problems? And it's actually not rocket science. We tell people to put the phone down, digitally detox,
Mm. Mm.
turn off computer screens, go outside into nature, get some fresh air, get some sun. We say all these things, but what do we actually mean? Well, we basically mean going back to ancestral living. And it's not going out and hunting, you can do that if you like, but
Mm.
it's digitally detoxing, turning your phone off, turning your computer off, not checking emails, 24/7,
Right.
scrolling through social media, doom scrolling through YouTube. Get your shoes and socks off, get your feet on the ground, do some
That's it.
grounding,
Grounding.
get some sunning, do some sunning, get some 30 minutes of sun a day, go for a walk, go for a run, listen to nature, talk to people, bond
Mm.
socially, turn off all the devices, all this kind of stuff. That's what we tell people. And these are all scientifically proven independently to
Mm.
actually lower things like our cortisol, our stress hormone.
Yes.
And it just so happens that, these are all the things we actually evolved doing. It's
Yeah.
not that, it's not rocket science, but it's just bringing all that again back into our lifestyle. So it's not just the diet. The diet's a big part of it,
Correct.
but there's other aspects of it that actually do really matter as well. And so that's what my kind of protocol is about. It's really just about marrying those two things. And it's also a little bit more, I don't know, somewhat socially acceptable,
Yes. Yes.
I think, which for some people is a really big deal. And this was, I think, kind of really born from patients coming back in saying, look, I really want to do carnivore, but I just need to eat
Yeah.
something that's not
Yeah.
me every once in a while, and like if when I go out, like what do I do, and do I just eat meat or nothing, like, can I have a bit of salad or avocado here and there, like what if I have a tiny bit of fruit, am I
Yeah.
derailing myself? And
Yeah.
and I saw people doing this and they weren't just dying, like they were fine.
No, no, that's right. A little
you
bit of
know
seed oil on your steak isn't going to kill you, if you eat it the one time.
That's it. And I say that to
Mm.
people, things like mayo, they come in, they're like, but I can't make my own homemade mayo. Like, I don't
Yeah.
have the kit and the time. And I'm like, who cares? Like, okay, well, it's got some canola oil in it. Like,
Yeah.
Hellman's has got canola oil. Like, what are you going to, if you said that you're eating a jar of mayo every day, like, that's probably not going to be good for you.
Yeah.
But if you have like a spoon of mayo once a week, once a month,
Yeah.
like, what are you're going to have like zero point 0.1 mils of canola oil or something. Like, it's going to do nothing,
That's right. Yeah.
realistically.
Yeah. And it's just, it's practically impossible in this day and age to really stick to 100% carnivorous diet, even if you try to. I mean, yes, it can be achievable. So I shouldn't say 100% because it can be achievable if you really want to do it. However, if you're in this modern era where socially,
Yep.
for one, it's looked down upon. Two,
Mm,
there's not many options if you're going to be going out into public places and eating, unless you're really living out remotely and you do have that, I guess, luxury to do so.
mm,
Um, but yeah, it's practically impossible, and
yep.
I don't necessarily agree with the dogma of you've got to be 100% carnivore as well. I mean,
Mm,
I can't claim to be perfect either. I mean, I did cut out coffee, which for a period of time I was 100% carnivore for about
mm.
2 months, and I brought it back in because I
Yeah.
wanted to.
And I think that's perfectly fine. People
Yeah,
ask me, what
yeah,
about coffee? And I'm like, dude, if you want it, just drink it.
yeah. Do
Like,
it.
it's
Yeah,
fine. It's fine.
yeah,
It's not a huge problem. Yes, coffee can have some mold and stuff in it. But again, like, if you're chugging like 8, 9, 10 coffees a day, like, it's
yeah,
probably a problem and you probably
yeah,
have a problem. If you're doing like 1 cup of coffee a day, occasionally, maybe, like, who cares,
yeah.
really? Like, I've just had my fourth child, and while my wife's doing the brunt of the work, breastfeeding, like, yeah, I kind of want a coffee every now and then to
Oh, yeah,
just, like, I drive for work for an hour, like,
yeah,
I don't need the coffee to drive because that I just wouldn't drive if I really needed the coffee. That's unsafe, but
yeah,
like, it helps, and
yeah.
you can get those benefits. Like, you don't need to be that 100%. And like you said, it's hard to anyway. And then what do you do? Like, you go out for a meal, you go out to even a steakhouse. Like, it's probably going to be covered in canola oil anyway.
Yes, yeah,
Like, what,
yeah.
you're just never going to go out. Okay, like, fine, just don't go out. But then what do you do? People invite you out.
That's
You
right.
just, no, I'm not going to come.
Yeah,
And I was contacted by a doctor not long ago who asked me about a patient, and said, look, is this a thing on carnivore? And this patient was basically just refusing there's the meat. They ordered this like carnivore meal especially for them. I mean,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I don't know what kind of private hospital, whatever this was, but they ordered them like a steak or whatever, and they
yeah.
were just like, oh, they won't eat it because it's like touched vegetables.
Oh, yeah. See,
And
that's
it's
the
like, seriously, like, come on.
yeah, yeah. It's a tad too far. Yeah,
It's
I
a
get
little
you.
bit too
Yeah,
far. I
yeah,
mean, like,
yeah,
where do you take it back? Oh no, I'm not going to buy meat because it's been in the same butcher's in the same shopping center as,
yeah,
as Woolworths that sells vegetables. It's like, come on.
yeah.
At
Yeah.
some point we have to just say it's okay.
That's right. That's right. So, I appreciate what you're doing there with your protocol. Um Now I want to get into this because this is you've got a unique perspective. I think you'll be, if you're willing to share. But um being a doctor, oh, firstly, can I ask What area of medicine are you working in right now?
So I'm a GP
Your
and
GP? Yeah.
certified lifestyle physician.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, it's gonna be no secret that you and like many other doctors out there are going against the grain of
Mm,
what you've been taught, medical advice, the I guess the establishments out there that push through, a anti-meat messaging. How do you do it? How do you honestly, consciously, think about, I guess, trying not to offend people because you're going to be working with people who are obviously
yeah.
against what you're.
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. And the truth is, I have offended people
Right.
with the work that I do. And I'm a bit more into the, integrative functional kind of space as well.
Yes.
I don't do any like crazy stuff, but
Mm,
I think when you got your own health story, you become a lot more open minded to these things. When you see
mm,
the truth and how much the wall's been pulled over our eyes with a lot of things, you do get a little bit more exploratory, shall we say,
right.
and not going down crazy woo stuff nonsense, but you become a little bit more, yeah, like maybe there's something in this or that and whatever, and you can start to work outside the guidelines a little bit, and that can be dangerous.
Yes.
Here in Australia, Gary Fettke, you may know him,
Yes.
orthopedic
Yes.
surgeon. He's pretty famously, suspended by APRA for discussing low carb nutrition, with his patients.
Yeah.
And Dietetics Australia, I think it was, got wind of it and complained and said, oh,
Mm,
he's not qualified to give advice and so on. I mean, thankfully, people like him, really, Tim, Professor Tim Noakes,
yes.
these other people, these are really the trailblazers and the heroes of our time, because these were the guys, these were the doctors who actually have really suffered and been put under the pump. And now people like me are a lot freer to come out with this kind of stuff and say, hey, we're doing something slightly different here.
Mm, mm,
um, Even just low carb nutrition in general, which is just
yes.
insane to
Yeah.
think that that is even potentially an issue. It's in the guidelines for treating type 2 diabetes, for God's sake. And
Right.
doctors still have an issue with low carb. Oh, it doesn't work. And oh, it's nonsense. And,
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. It's like, it's in the guidelines. Come on. Like, these guidelines
Yeah.
that you so happily cling to, it's in there. Yet they still, no, it doesn't work. It's like, it's insane. But the truth is, yeah, like I have kind of offended some people. At the moment, I'm working with some pretty good people, both in the
Yeah.
clinics I work in, and they're a bit more open minded. They've got their own kind of special interest areas outside of what I do, but that has enabled, I think, them again to just look a little bit outside of that standard, kind of mold, that
Yeah.
tunnel vision. They're a little bit wider. Okay, well, what else is going on out in there in the world? And also, I think recognizing their own limitations and what they don't know, but things that could potentially help their patients. So I think that helps, that they're a little bit
Yeah.
more open minded.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, like threat, it's always a concern.
Mm,
And you have to be careful. When I first made my podcast and the YouTube, I was like, oh, well, like, is this okay? Like, what am I doing? This is going to be really
I
bad. This
feel
is
you.
dangerous. Like, APRA is going to come after me, and and the reality is, like, as long as you're not telling people like just broadly on the thing like, oh, go and stop your insulin and whatever, like,
Yeah.
like you're going to be fine on the whole. But you have to, I think, be able to back up what you're saying. So you have to know studies, you have to read studies,
That's
you
right.
have to be able to
Yes.
present evidence
Yeah.
to defend your position. And I think that's absolutely fair enough. No one
Yes.
should be allowed to just come out and say whatever they feel like without any real evidence base. But that's a problem we have nowadays, evidence-based
Yeah. What does
medicine,
that
of
even mean
course.
now? Yeah.
But that is the question. What does it even mean?
Yeah.
And I ask, people say that to me, and I say, yeah, but who makes the evidence?
That's right.
I'm
That's
sure
right.
I'm sure you've seen it. You go to like your conferences and your health mandatory study days and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Who's sponsoring the events?
That's right. Oh, the evidence is actually the guidelines, Forget
Yeah,
about the studies behind it. It's just what the
it's
guy,
just the
it's just the
guidelines,
guidelines.
and
Yeah.
these are all basically written by drug companies.
Right.
And I remember, I'll never forget it. We had with COVID and things, and there was the shortage of Ozempic
Ah,
and these GLP-1 analogs, and we got
yeah.
some guidance through the post, saying, oh, now we can't get these drugs. Like, what else do we do for treating type 2 diabetes?
Mm.
And literally the first like two lines was, oh, well, you should try lifestyle interventions, and you can try lifestyle interventions, but they don't really work. So here's all these drugs that you can prescribe. And it was like
Right.
two A4 pages of just drugs and like one, 2 lines maybe on lifestyle medicine, and
Wow.
basically just saying like it just doesn't work, so don't bother. Like, and that's the guidelines. Like, that's what we as doctors are taught now. Like, that's the way that you treat people, is just give them the drugs.
Yeah.
and
Mm.
and so it is really hard, and it's hard to go to educational events, and because it's all just what are these drugs, which is really hard. So yeah, that's why you go to things like low carb down under,
Yeah.
keto con, like this kind of stuff. I'd love to go to keto con at some point,
Mm, mm.
um, to actually just try and broaden your horizon. But there are people out there that are open minded.
Yes. Yeah.
I've actually got a number of doctors that have bought my guide, my How to Carnivore guide, which is
Ah.
really incredible. Sorry to plug it accidentally there.
No, 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 no. Go ahead. Plug away.
But anyone check out themeatmedic.com, you can see my health guides. But it's great. I mean, I was contacted by one the other day. Hopefully she won't mind me. I won't say her name, of course. And I've been trying to kind of get her to do it for a while, because she's in that kind of like cosmetic aesthetic space. And she just kept saying like, how do you, like, you look so young and like you've got so much energy. Like, what's going on? Like, dude, it's the carnivore diet. Like, just do it. Just try it. And she's like, nah, like I want to, but like I can't. And she actually contacted me the other day. She bought my guide and she
Mm.
contacted me and said, oh my God, like, what is this magic? Like, this is incredible. Like 2 days in, like my joint pain's gone.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, wow, it's just incredible. So it's really nice that there's doctors out there that are actually open-minded.
Yeah.
There's a few that have bought my guide. Like, a number of them have contacted me saying, hey, look, I want to learn about this. You're talking about it, you seeming to get good results. Like, I want to know about it, I want to talk about it. So
Mm.
there are some people out there. And the tide is very slowly shifting,
Yes.
very slowly.
It's getting there. Yeah. Yeah.
But I often say the medical profession, I'm sure you know this, it's like an oil tanker. There's so much inertia that even you turn the steering wheel, but 10 years later, something might change.
Right.
So
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I totally feel you. I was chatting to another YouTuber about this. About 20 years ago, they had on, I think it was the Current Affair, they talked about the Atkins diet. It
Mm.
wasn't received very well, and obviously media had their twists to it. 10 years or 20 years later, you have Dr. Chafee talk about the carnivore diet in 60 minutes, and it
60
was,
minutes, I think.
and
Yeah.
again, it just, you know, nothing's changed really in that short span of time in terms of the messaging
No.
and the narrative behind, anti-meat stuff. So yeah, um,
No. Again, you just have to follow the money.
that's it. That's it.
Who
Yeah.
who lobbies, the governments, it's drug companies, sugar companies, who pays for all the research,
Yeah.
sugar companies and drug companies, who stands to gain from people being unhealthy, sugar
Yeah.
companies and drug companies.
Yeah.
And that's just the kind of the sad reality. The meat industry just isn't big enough to put their weight, behind anything,
Mm,
which is a real shame. I'm sure they probably could come up with some studies,
mm.
but there are studies out there, like the
Yeah.
University of Adelaide did a big study last year, showed, 176 countries, I think it was, pretty much all positively correlated, life expectancy and disease-free years with meat consumption.
Mm,
The more
mm.
meat you ate, the longer and healthier you lived,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
The what's it? I can't remember the acronym for it now, but they said, pretty much all of the studies showing red meat is bad is just garbage,
Oh yes.
and it all needs to be redone.
Yeah.
ICME or something, I can't remember the name of it
Yeah.
now.
ICME. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And there are these studies out there, like Sydney Heart Trial, was buried for like 20 years, I think, because like,
Yeah.
it just, didn't show that cholesterol was bad, saturated fat was
Yeah.
bad rather, and substituting it with ALA, made people worse. Sorry, LA, omega-6 linoleic acid, made people worse. Follow the guidelines, you'll get heart disease.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, no, we don't like that. Let's just never publish it.
Never publish it. Yeah.
And this is the thing, this evidence-based, like, but who makes the
Yeah.
evidence?
Yeah.
That is really the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
it is.
So as a GP, uh do you talk to patients about carnivore diet? I mean, you've had people
Yeah.
talk to you about it and say that they've been doing it. How's your practice changed, I guess, with
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's a very good question. I do regularly talk about carnivore diet.
yeah,
Obviously, like, I mean, if someone's coming in, hey, look, doc, I've stubbed my toe,
yeah,
you know, I don't kind of go, oh, you know what, carnivore
yeah,
diet will fix that. Like, no,
yeah,
no.
no.
And you know, and I know a lot of doctors out there, you know, and patients always are complaining, you know, you go in for the stuff, you know, broke my toe, and they're like, oh, but that's because you're fat, you know, and let's talk
Yeah,
about that. You're like, you know, I don't do that. You know, people want to talk about their weight. I'll certainly talk about it, of course, and I do help them with that.
hmm.
But you know, if I see an opportunity to discuss it, just you know, diet in general and lifestyle,
Yeah,
that's really my forte as a lifestyle physician. You know, I'm
hmm.
trying to not prescribe drugs. I'm trying to de-prescribe drugs.
Yeah, yeah,
And if there's an opportunity for that, then I'll talk about it,
yeah,
and I'll talk about carnivore as part of that kind of, you know, package, so to
yeah,
speak. You know, I don't just launch in with like, oh, you know, carnivore can help you with this, carnivore can help you with that. You know, I talk about just nutrition and diet in general, and then I go into, you know, I mean, effectively, pretty much for almost any condition, you know, low carb can help, you know, keto can help even more, and then
yes,
carnivore can help even more. And
yeah,
I just present it as an option to patients and say, hey, look, if you want to do this, you'll get better a lot quicker. It'll be easier, and then you can maybe go back to not what you were doing, but you know,
yeah,
introduce some other foods down the line if you really want to, depending on where they're coming from and what they're trying to achieve. Some people jump on that, others they're not interested.
yeah.
But I talk about it with like mental health. I do a lot of mental health work as well with patients, and I
That's
incorporate it
great.
into that. And I
That's
say, hey,
awesome.
look, you know, especially anxiety.
Yeah,
Um, you know, I talk about it like with patients with anxiety and say, hey, look, you know, there's this thing that we know can improve things. You know, do you want to give it a go? If not, look, fine. You know,
yeah,
I'm not going to push it on anyone. Some people they come in. It's quite funny because they're so kind of sheepish, and they come in and they're like, "Yeah, I want to talk to you about my diet," and they don't know that I do carnivore,
yeah.
and they're like, "Yeah, I've heard about this thing. I think you know, I can't remember what it's called. I think it might be like a meat diet." And I'm like, "Oh, do you mean carnivore diet?" They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I do it." They're like, "Oh my god, thank God!" Like, phew. Like, yeah. Like, can I talk about it? I'm like, yes, it's fine.
Yeah, that's
Because they're
so
so
funny.
nervous. They're so nervous about coming
Yeah,
and
yeah,
speaking to a doctor about this diet because it goes against everything that they're
mm,
taught, which is kind of sad, you know. But and I get some people coming to see me because they know I do carnivore and they want help with it. But yeah, like I talk about it, you know, a lot with people, but yeah, I definitely don't force it on anybody at all.
yeah. No, that's awesome, and that's an awesome thing to do. Look, I'm the same. Look, I went carnivore 2 years ago, and I have not seen a GP since. It's it's not that and I'll be honest here. There was a lot of I guess it was a shock to the system in terms of learning the things that I did, and and just my interactions that I've had with the GPs in the past.
Mm,
I had a lot of mistrust, and in terms of, I know what I'm going to be going in there for. They're going to go straight to my cholesterol.
hmm
They're gonna want to check my lipids. They're going to want to talk to me about taking a statin. Talk to me about my HbA1c. And it's going to be the whole. It's just, and so I avoided going to the doctors for 2 years.
mm.
And it wasn't necessarily that, you know I just felt like I didn't need to really with like you said, the things that you experience through this diet, you feel great. So what's the point in going into, to see a doctor? But I'm glad to see people like yourself that are really pioneering this movement of doctors pushing through this way of eating. And I can imagine it's not easy.
It's not, but I mean, I think I would say I wouldn't call myself a pioneer. You know, there's other people out
No.
there that have come before me that have really paved the way. I'm just out there trying to do, you know, my own thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a shame that, you know, you've had that experience, but that's one that we hear so often, you know, with people just feeling mistrust from doctors, you know, and doctors seemingly wanting to talk about stuff that patients don't really want to talk about. And to be fair, though, I mean, doctors would say, well, that's because, you know, they're unhealthy, whatever. They don't want to
Yeah.
talk about it. But, you know, things like cholesterol, I mean, it's good you mentioned that, you know, the idea that, and we can talk about that if you want to, of course, but
Yeah, definitely.
the idea that, you know, this super complex thing called heart disease, you know, comes down to this one This one blood test.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, no, it's like absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's the height of arrogance and stupidity
yeah.
that this whole thing comes down to. The whole entirety of your health
Mm,
basically comes down to one blood test, like your LDL cholesterol. Like,
yeah,
it's ridiculous. There's a mountain of evidence that there's so much more that
yeah.
goes into it, even just beyond, what causes heart disease. Just the in terms of the blood tests, the investigations that we can do for people now. There's so much more than LDL cholesterol, yet that's the only thing anyone ever focuses on,
That's
and
right.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's a real shame. There's new calculators. The Australian CVD calculator has just been updated. I haven't looked at it yet, but someone told me it includes the calcium score in there now, I think,
Okay,
which is
good,
really good.
good.
I like using the MESA calculator because that includes calcium scores and
Okay.
tells you what to do. Basically, with a statin, it gives them the risk, and almost always the statin actually, according to that anyway, is increasing the risk,
Right,
which is
right. Oh,
really
that's
interesting.
interesting. Ah,
Really interesting. And I suspect that's because I don't know how exactly they're doing their calculations, but it's been obviously validated independently and so on.
yeah.
I suspect that's probably because of the insulin resistance and
Right,
the
right.
glucose tolerance that we know can get worse with
Yeah,
statins,
yeah.
and the fact that LDL cholesterol doesn't actually really
Of
cause
course. Yeah,
heart disease.
yeah.
Damaged LDL certainly plays a big role, but
Yeah.
statins don't reduce damaged LDL
No,
cholesterol.
no.
So again, this thing of just put statins in the water for everyone. I mean, like, Dr. I saw one of Dr. Baker, I think it was his John Baker's tweets. He'd retweeted someone, or he's quoted someone. This doctor in the States basically saying, the only way, essentially, to paraphrase, the only way to get a normal LDL cholesterol is to be on a statin. Like, and quoting basically his LDL cholesterol of a baby
Yeah,
and saying that this is normal for an adult. I mean, like, do you not even know basic physiology? Like, as
yeah,
a
yeah,
doctor, that is scary. I mean, it's really scary to think that people will listen to that person, that doctor, because he's got MD after his name.
yeah,
That the only way to be normal, disregard like cholesterol, the only way to be normal is to take a drug.
yeah. It's crazy. It's
Like, it's
crazy.
just it's crazy. It's absolute madness. Absolute
That
madness.
it's crazy. Ah. Um. So look, Dr. Khirwadkar, lots we can talk about, but I know we've got a bit of a short time here. I just want to talk about now how people can find you. What are your
Mm-hmm.
social media accounts and what sort of services do you offer? Talk us through, yeah, how people can reach out to you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, basically, if you go to themeatmedic.com, then you'll find me. So the meat, MEAT, medic.com, that's pretty much everything's on there. I have my own, business address, drsuresh.com.au as well for Australian patients. It's all linked off the Meat Medic though. Social media, it's all at the Meat Medic, pretty straightforward. So that's probably the best way to find me, and through the meatmedic.com. And there's courses and guides and stuff on there, of course, if people want to, and links to my YouTube and so on. So I've got a YouTube channel, podcast, Instagram, etc. I'm reasonably active. I try to be. I've got 4 kids. It's
Yeah.
hard to find the time,
Oh, I feel
but I
yeah.
try to be.
I've got the two and I'm having a hard time.
It's
Can't
hard.
imagine you
It's
with the
hard.
four. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, the meatmedic.com is probably the best way to find me.
Awesome stuff. Well, look, Dr. Khirwadkar, thank you so much for coming on to my YouTube channel. Thank you for your valuable time, and honestly commend you for what you do, not just as a medical profession, but just as a person, for putting through this message out there for people to look at, and really empowering people to take health into their own hands. I think it's powerful enough as it is, just to really enforce that message to other people. So thank you for your time. All right. Now, guys, please, after this video, go ahead and subscribe to the Meat Medic. Check out his channel, his YouTube channel. Check out the website. And for those that are wanting to get started into this lifestyle, I recommend checking out also his Primal Fusion diet protocol. which it's already out though, isn't it?
There's an introductory guide. I'm still fleshing out the exact, details, but that's going to be my kind of pièce de résistance, so to speak. So
Ah,
that's a work in progress. Yeah.
there we go, guys. So check it out. Yeah, just get yourself following Dr. Khirwadkar's social medias. So, all right. So like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.